There's a man out there breaking the World Cup. He stands 6'5", wears his blonde hair in a tiny bun, and nearly half the shots he takes end up in the net. His name? Erling Haaland. Think I'm exaggerating? Grab your coffee and check these numbers with me. What this Norwegian is doing at this World Cup has earned its own name, the Haaland effect. And today I'll show you why nobody on the planet can stop it. Pay attention to this run, because it sounds fake. Haaland has scored in 14 straight games for Norway. 14. That run has a bit of everything. A screamer against Italy, 3 against Kazakhstan, and in one single game against Moldova, 5 goals. 5 in total, 27 goals across 14 games. And that hurricane carried Norway back to the World Cup, their first one since 1998. So you're thinking, he got to the World Cup, the magic runs out, right? Wrong. 2 goals against Iraq, 2 against Senegal, the match winner against Ivory Coast, and 2 against Brazil. 7 goals in 4 games. Top scorer of the tournament, level with Messi and Mbappé. But here's the scary detail. This is the first World Cup of his life, and he's already 3 goals away from half of everything Messi ever scored at World Cups, counting every World Cup Messi played. That is not normal. Want to grasp the scale of this? Let's put the monsters side by side. Mbappé needed 103 games for France to score 63 goals. Haaland? 62 goals in 54 games, just over half the games, and he's already Norway's top scorer of all time. He reached 60 international goals, 69 games faster than Messi, and 76 games faster than Cristiano Ronaldo. No player with 50 or more national team goals in the past 100 years has scored at a better rate per game. And yes, let's be fair, Mbappe scored many of his in knockout rounds and World Cup finals, stages Haaland is only now stepping onto. But that's exactly what's frightening. He's just getting started on that part of the story. And this is where what I call the Haaland effect comes in. Because goals are just the visible part. Norway knocked out Brazil. Brazil, 5-time world champions, the eternal favorites, out of the World Cup. And with that, Norway reached the quarterfinals for the first time in the country's history. 4 wins at this World Cup, more wins than Norway managed across every other World Cup in their history combined. Think about what that means. A country of fewer than 6 million people, decades away from this stage, now looks at the bracket and thinks, we can beat anyone. That's the Haaland effect. He didn't just change the score, he changed what that squad believes is within reach. He changed how the world reacts when Norway shows up in its path. Norway used to be a cute little story. Now they're a genuine threat. And next in line, Harry Kane's England in the quarterfinals. If this pace holds, this World Cup might end up with an owner, and he wears his hair in a tiny bun. Now, if you think this came out of nowhere, sit down. This story has been years in the making. The man has already blown past 359 career goals. Chapter 1, Molde in Norway. In a game against Brann, unbeaten league leaders with the meanest defense around, teenage Haaland scored 4 times in the first 21 minutes, 4-0, and international scouts wrote his name down on the spot. Chapter 2, Salzburg. His Champions League debut came against Genk, and he left it with a hat trick before halftime. No teenager in history had ever done that on a debut. Then he became the first teen ever to hit the net in 5 straight Champions League games. 8 goals in 6 group stage matches. Europe got it instantly. This wasn't hype. This was a phenomenon. Chapter 3, Borussia Dortmund. Debut off the bench, hat trick in 23 minutes. First player in Bundesliga history with 7 goals in his opening 3 games. Youngest ever to reach 50 league goals at just 21. Champions League top scorer at 20. German Cup champion, scoring twice in the final. And a few nights that became legend. A brace against PSG, including a rocket launched from distance straight into the top corner. 4 goals across a knockout tie with Sevilla. And against Frankfurt, 2 goals and 3 assists. The monster learning to play for the team. That's the version Guardiola fell in love with. And then City came calling. In England, he flat out broke the league. More than 160 goals in a City shirt already. First season, the treble. League, Cup, and Champions League, matching what United did back in '99. 36 league goals, erasing a record that had stood for decades. the 34 of Shearer and Cole. 52 goals in 53 games overall. Fastest in history to 10, 20, and 25 Premier League goals. 6 hat-tricks in one single season, as many as every other player in the league put together. 5 goals in one Champions League game against Leipzig, something only Messi and Luis Adriano had done. A goal every 77 minutes, the best rate the Premier League has ever seen. Then came Season 2 and routine. Top scorer again, the first ever to win the Golden Boot in back-to-back seasons, and a 4th straight English title for City, something no club had ever pulled off. The season after that, 9 goals in his first 4 games, wiping out Rooney's old mark. At one point, he alone had more goals than 18 Premier League clubs combined. 100 goals for City in 105 games, and all of it while doing the pressing and the running Guardiola's system demands, the thing everyone swore was impossible for a player his size. He stopped being just a striker. He became a goal machine, the nightmare of every defense on the planet. Okay, but how? How is a human being this good? Haaland doesn't dribble past 3 defenders, no stepovers, no shifting the ball to buy himself half a yard. He spends most of the game barely touching the ball. Then he pulls the trigger. 7 goals at this World Cup, 6 of them first-time finishes. The other took just 2 touches. Of the 16 shots he's taken in the tournament, 15 were hit first time. Call it economy, call it instinct, call it whatever you like. Goals are his native language. And here's the strange part. Sometimes it looks like he isn't even playing. He floats in front of the back line, quiet, almost bored, like me on a Monday. Then, in 1 second, he shows up. 1 burst, 1 touch, goal. And don't be fooled, this is pure genius. He reads 4 things at once, better than anyone on the planet. The ball, the open space, the defenders, and the teammate about to play the pass. And he finds that little breath of space nobody else saw. Want proof? Against Senegal, he waits. He doesn't run too early. He doesn't burn the sprint. The instant the center-back closes the passing lane and a crack opens on the left, he changes gear with brutal power and finishes first time. It's not raw speed, it's timing. On his second goal, surrounded by 4 defenders, the pass came in awkward. He adjusted his body with 1 hip rotation and finished in a single touch. Against Ivory Coast, he touched the ball 5 times in the opposition box all game, 5, and scored the winner. He doesn't need to show up all the time. He needs 1 chance. And against Brazil, the masterpiece. On the first goal, he strolls in, saving his energy, refusing to wrestle Gabriel before the moment comes. The defender switches off for half a second. Fatal mistake. The instant the ball leaves Scheldrup's foot, Haaland's body has already changed direction. When Gabriel finally reacts, it's over. On the second, he receives standing still, so calm that both center-backs freeze. In 1 second, he opens up the angle and unleashes a missile that nearly rips the net apart. And if you still have any doubt, save this last number. At this World Cup, Haaland has turned 7.25% of all his touches into goals. Since 1966, among players with 60 or more touches in one single World Cup, nobody has converted at a higher rate. That's no ordinary striker. That's the finest number 9 in world football, operating at his peak. And maybe, just maybe, the very best footballer alive right now. Norway believes, because he moved the limit of what that team dares to dream. The rest of the world watches and shivers. If the Haaland effect keeps going, this World Cup will have an owner.